Could there be a connection between the Iranian assassination plot and Thomas Matthew Crooks? Mark Moyer is author of Masters of Corruption: How the Federal Bureaucracy Sabotaged the Trump Presidency. Mark, thanks for coming back on today.
Great to be with you, Stacy.
So let's talk about this. The Matthew Crooks story is one of intrigue and very little actual detail. I remember a time, I'm old enough to remember a time when someone would commit a mass shooting and we would know the day they were born, their blood type, where they went to high school, everything about them, their political affiliations, and it would be within 24 hours because if the government didn't provide the information, we'd have internet sleuths that would just literally, a constant stream of information. They'd have to lock down their Facebook account because everyone would have already lifted the information from there. Now we have an information desert around this guy.
Yeah, it's been really incredible how much the government has been trying to obfuscate and conceal here. And we saw that with Secret Service Director Cheadle earlier this week, refusing to provide basic information that, as you say, would have been out a long time ago in most events. And she's so frustrated, even the Democrats, that they wanted to get her to resign, and then she finally did resign. And now we have FBI Director Christopher Wray appearing before Congress today, and he also can't provide basic details like how many snipers were there, or we're just learning too from him new details that the shooter was actually flying a drone over the event 2 hours before. And some of this seems to be just incompetence, but you also certainly get the sense that the administration is deliberately trying to conceal some of this information for reasons which are still a bit mysterious. As you say, this gives rise to all sorts of potential conspiracy theories, which may or may not have any basis in reality. But we're seeing both the right and the left now coming up with theories about how this is more than we think it may be.
Yeah, and so some of them were debunked. I mean, over the course of this week, we have learned that the idea that there was a second shooter, that's not true. Some of the other things, but some of the more salient points are actually pretty damning, and they are true. You mentioned the drone. This guy was able to get into, and so to be clear, he wasn't inside of the rally grounds, but he was on the grounds where the rally is held. So he's on the grounds where the rally is actually being hosted, and he's got a drone. He's got a rangefinder. So that tells you the distance from a thing that's off. You're how far away is that from me? You use the rangefinder and it tells you how many feet or yards that thing is away from you. And it helps you to sight your scope on your your high-powered weapon. So if anyone has a rangefinder anywhere near an event where the Secret Service is protecting someone, you think that that person would have been detained. I'm surprised that they thought he was a person of interest. He was by himself, and they didn't simply just say to him, "We'd like to talk to you for a few minutes," and bring him into. They always have a secure area. I know this, Mark, because I've been to over 33 rallies and other events where President Trump has been present. I've been through the Secret Service, the gauntlet, where they have to literally turn your laptop off so they can turn it on in their presence and watch it boot up so that they know that it's not an actual bomb. I've had my purse searched. I've seen people have chairs and umbrellas and water bottles removed from them before entering an indoor rally. I've seen the perimeter searches that they do with the dogs around, in the parking lot when, this is not inside the space. This is outside of where the actual protectee is going to be. I mean, I think pretty much every iteration of what they do to prepare to clean a site and make it safe for a person to enter that they're protecting. Everything I've ever seen, everything I know about the Secret Service, all of it is obliterated in this one event because none of their proper procedures appear to have been followed.
Yes, and we've seen some stunning failures. I mean, the drone is just, another one. They should have certainly been able to detect that, and it should have raised a lot of red flags. And then you combine that with the fact that you have people reporting the suspicious individual with the rangefinder and the backpack. You have all these people screaming that there's somebody on the roof. And then another unanswered question that Director Wray today is still refusing to answer is, why was it he was able to get off 8 shots? Shouldn't they, at least after the first one, have been ready to authorize force? It appears some of the snipers had noticed this this guy, and it is grossly negligent in many respects. And then there's also this question of how many resources were sent there. And this again is another reason why Americans are suspicious, because when this first came up, there were reports from Susan Crabtree of Real Clear Politics and others that the Secret Service had requested or had been asked by the Trump campaign for additional resources. The Secret Service said no. And then a week later, even the Washington Post is reporting that no, in fact, the Trump campaign did ask for those resources and the Secret Service denied them. And we're seeing all these resources were sent to a Joe Biden dinner. So it just is making the government look worse and worse.
Yeah, it does. So let's get into, I mean, we have to get off into the weeds here. A lot of excuses were given by the former director of the Secret Service. I'm not sure exactly when her resignation takes effect, but she's decided to resign. And part of the testimony that was so damning for her was when she was asked about what you said, how many shell casings were found on the property. I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from Georgia, who was asking that question. And when the question was posed, she first appeared not to know the answer. And when pushed on that, MTG got her to admit that she knew the number of shell casings that were found on the roof, but that she didn't want to share that information with them because the FBI told her the information. And so therefore, she wouldn't be at liberty to share it and she would refer them to the FBI. At which point, it was pointed out that she's in charge of the entire Secret Service. And so if there is something that needs to be known, not only would she have access to that information, but as a subpoenaed, agency head, she would need to then share that with Congress because they subpoenaed her. Her performance was so poorly thought out and just unbelievably bad that it wasn't a surprise to me that she resigned afterwards because she embarrassed herself. And they were brutal to her because she came there with basically an attitude of not wanting to tell them what they were asking, not to share information, not to be transparent. What are the chances that they call for Christopher Wray to resign today?
Well, that's a good question. He's at least made an attempt to try to seem more forthcoming, but he's also using these crazy excuses that, oh, we still don't know all this information, even though I'm sure they know most of what Congress is seeking. But we are really seeing an inflection point where Congress and both sides are becoming fed up with this White House for consistently refusing to turn over information on a wide variety of topics. And so hopefully we will see also more pressure on the FBI. And the FBI also has to answer questions, which hopefully they'll get to, about their punishment of FBI whistleblowers, including Marcus Allen and Garrett O'Boyle and Steve Friend, who are still under a cloud. And the FBI has been stonewalling on this, but hopefully we now have bipartisan effort to really force the FBI to answer for what it's been doing.
Yeah. So the momentum of this, because other times when congressional Republicans have brought in, agency heads, directors, what have you, they bring them in and the media immediately sets upon the House Republicans and says, "Oh, look at them. They're just doing this for clicks. They just want to get on Fox News. They don't really have a problem here. This person didn't do anything wrong. This isn't something that Congress should be concerning themselves with. The Republicans are unserious and blah, 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 blah." But in this instance, a man was killed, two others were critically injured, and a former president, was actually shot on the watch of the Secret Service. And because the FBI is investigating and they're bringing their perspective into this, an accountability session under these circumstances is not just warranted, but it could solve a lot of problems for Americans who see these agencies as being really, it's just a bunch of letters and billions of dollars for each agency and not a lot of results. I think more people should be forced to resign.
Yeah, I agree. This administration and the federal government in general have a lot of accountability problems, and Ray has a pretty checkered record to begin with. I mean, we had the case with the gymnasts who were assaulted by Jerry Nadler, who he gave a free pass to his own employees on. We are now seeing as you say, I think maybe the fact that it was so close to the president, even though the Democrats don't like Trump, I think maybe they realized that this could happen to one of their own people. And so it is pretty remarkable to see this amount of bipartisan indignation, and even the press to some extent is going along. Although we're also seeing this sudden flip in the press in the press, which for a month or so has been fairly responsible in reporting things like Joe Biden's mental fitness, but now all of a sudden they seem to be turning into a mouthpiece of Kamala Harris. So I am worried that this is going to lead them to try to push to sweep some of these things under the rug.
Yep, they could try that. And I'll just say, so they could try pushing it under the rug, but someone was killed. Mr. Comparatori's family, there is no pushing it under the rug for them. He's gone, and they're going to see the evidence of that in every aspect of their lives. For the rest of their lives, he's not going to be back, and there's nothing that can be done to bring him back. But if people who were incompetent, the people who assigned the team, the people who told the team of snipers that they needed an additional layer of approval before they could actually take out the shooter. In other words, you can't take him out unless he fires a shot. Those people, the decision makers at the top of the chain, they should go. It's not enough to let go of Kimberly Cheadle. A thorough house cleaning is in order. Mark Moyer, author of Masters of Corruption, How the Federal Bureaucracy Sabotaged the Trump Presidency. I have it on my shelf right over here, my friends. You got to get this book. It's available wherever books are sold. Thank you, Mark, for coming on again.
Great. Thanks to be with you.
All right. Coming up after this S&C Fast Break, we break down the polls and discuss VP Harris's staffing issues. We'll be right back.